Hello and welcome to Tabletop 24. Thanks for joining us. I'm down at Manascrew again for our very limited edition Tales of Aria Flesh and Blood draft. We have 10 players in for the draft, and we're hoping to get some pack one pick ones from them and 3 rounds of Swiss with some gameplay going on. Now obviously these games will be for new cards for the players as it is release weekend. So we do ask obviously to bear with us maybe some rulings or some slower plays where people are getting used to the cards. Hope you enjoy the content and we'll catch you soon.
Alright. We'll go with my pack one, pick one.
Sorry, man. Excuse me.
Let's see. We got Lion, Ice, Amulet of Ice, Ranger. It's a few rares. Ooh, and a nice foil majestic. We got the equipment, we got a token, and we got some more class cards. Runeblade, Guardian, Ranger, Runeblade. Alright. So, another quick look through here. We got Runeblade, coins. 3. We're going missing. No, we got a bunch of arrows as well. This is just an elemental action. This is Guardian, Ranger, Guardian, Guardian, and the Ranger. Pretty good spread here. We've got 4 generics, 3 of each class, and a majestic, which I think it can be anything. We got 1 equipment as well. Now, we got a nice majestic. It's foil. It's really good. It's a pretty easy choice to pick that up, but let's talk about a couple of other contenders. Fine Lightning is pretty good. Gains go again fairly easily. It's 0 cost. Red version is better. Blue version's also better sometimes, but yellow's fine. It's in between. The other consideration is Red Autumn's Touch, very powerful card, 3 defense. It's Earth action as well, so it goes in multiple decks. So the elemental cards are slightly more viable as a first pick than the actual class cards, because you don't know what class is going to be open in the draft, unless it's a really bonkers class card, which we don't see any here. We see some nice red arrows. It's a nice defense reaction in Guardian. Runeblade is actually the most disappointing because we've got yellow, yellow, and a blue. Although the blue Singeing Steel Blade is super playable, so we're mostly playing it for the 1 arcane damage. Other than that, the elemental cards are nothing to write home about. This goes fine in a Guardian deck because it pitches for 3, and it's an ice action. Again, Autumn's Touch is probably the most valuable elemental card here. And obviously, we're just taking the nice blink. It's lightning, so it goes in a couple of different decks. It goes in Briar or God forbid Lexi. But yeah, it's blue pitch, 0 cost, gives you an extra action point to do whatever you like with. It's majestic, so that'll be my pack one.
There's my pack. Is that in the camera?
Yeah, that's all good.
That's all good. Okay, so I'm thinking that rather than a class card, I'll go for something elemental first. I quite like that's an Earth, Lightning, Elemental. This can go some Ice. I think my pack one, pick one from this is probably going to be the Frostfang. Yeah, it's ice, so being ice, it can go into Oldham or Lexi.
Oh, sorry, no, I say.
Okay, so first draft of Tales of Aria. Let's have a look. Let's see what we've got.
Tap 7, Hour of Eternity.
Elemental action, ice action.
Rares. Foil. Equipment. Pump. There are class cards. Got another Guardian one here. Another Ranger one. Maybe it's slightly more central, sorry. Another Rune Blade. Here's our token. So judging by this, I'm not inclined to be taking either of the rares because I'm probably going to try and leave myself open. I am probably looking towards potentially Thump, be a very strong card. Buzzbot is also another quite strong card, but I probably want more of a red one rather than a blue one. So based on that, I'm actually probably going to look more towards something like an Ice Encounter, Ice Action, and provide other cards that I might see from here. There is also the Coat of Frost, but again, this could narrow me down to an Ice. I think between this and the Coat of Frost, just to get something I'm definitely going to use for the rest of the draft, I'm probably leaning towards one of these two cards. I think I'm probably going to take maybe a Coat of Frost, and then see if I can go into an Oldhim or go into Lexi and see what I can do with these. So I'm going to pick Coat of Frost.
Alright, so this is the token that goes elsewhere. So what have we got? We've got Entwine Earth, Inscribe, Shock Shelter, Entwine, Mulch, Evergreen, Snapshot, Frostfang. Really, that looks shiny. Equipment. Right. Oh, goodness. Okay. I'm immediately thinking this looks nice. I know people have been talking about cold foils. I have no idea what they look like. But that looks nice. I like that. Is there anything else that is of use? If I go for ice already, then I've got the potential of going into either Oldhim or Lexi. And Frostfang hits a hero, they discard a card unless they pay this. I quite like that as an ability, and it looks nice, so I will take Frostfang.
So we have a Shock Striker, an Icy Encounter, Rejuvenate, a Break Ground, a Sow Tomorrow, a Cold Wave, Rifle Lightning, Chill to the Bone, Runaways, Emerging Avalanche, Frazzle, Bramble Spark, Strength of Sequoia, Flake Out, and Killer Flash. Now instantly I'm looking at the generic equipment because it's really easy to put into decks and it's really sought after. I'm also looking at things like the elementals that aren't really put to a class because they can go into any other decks. I think early on I'm probably just going to take the boots because actually I think something like Rifle Lightning is pretty good because it puts me into lightning, which gives me 2 classes that I can go for. But I don't want to go into anything that's too narrow. Like I could take Rifle Lightning, or I could take Cold Wave. I think Lightning is slightly stronger, and the decks that run it can be a bit more explosive and a bit less build aroundy. So I think I'm going to take that back.
So Red Break Ground, Invigorate, Lightning Surge, Chill to the Bone, Inspire Lightning, Frostfang, Channel Lake Frigid, Biting Gale, Sutcliffe Suede Hides, Mulch, Blizzard Bolt, Singeing Steel, Glacial Footsteps, Dazzling Crescendo, Arcanic Shockwave, and a token. Well, it's easy. To be fair, let's just put these out. I am going to go for Channel Lake Frigid, and hopefully try and get more ice cards. Hopefully try and get as much value out of this card as possible. Okie dokie, so my pick is Channel Lake Frigid.
All right. So this is my pack. So that's my token. So looking at these, this is a really good card, but it's a red. So you want to go for an elemental card first, because elemental gives you two options effectively. So you want to look for a strong elemental. Frostfang is looking quite likely at the moment due to it being a blue ice attack. Gives me more flexibility in my choices. The other option here that I'm looking at potentially be Glacial, just because of the raw damage that comes out with it. It comes out for 9 damage. But I think I'm going to go for the Frostfang because the Frostfang gives me the most options between Guardian and Ranger. Yep.
Rainblade, Ranger. Yes. Elemental Ranger. Equipment. Ranger. Rainblade. Guardian. Ranger. Rainblade. Guardian. Token.
I think I'll go for. So here I'm looking for what I can pick, and got a couple of lightning, a couple of earth. So attack action card. The Sanguines go again. Potentially, but that means I'd have to stick with the Runeblade. Yeah, I think weirdly. Breakout is the ice one, right? Yeah. Okay, so my choices here, interestingly, only seeing. Very weird choice, but. It's actually a really tough pack one, pick one. Yeah, I'm going to go Snow Under. The reason being is this is likely to come back to me, and which means we can play Guardian. It's a bit of a risky pack one, pick one, but yeah, I think that's the choice. We'll go for Snow Under.
Let's see what we have here. I think we already know what we will pick. And a token. So, let's see. Well, red. Just because it's red, I might consider taking it. It's really good. But in draft, I think deep blue will be good. I'm really happy that I found deep blue in this pack because it was the only one equipment which I wanted to take. You can see that there is... In this pack there is a bunch of, well, let's see, like Ice Fusion 1, 2, 3 light Ice Fusion, some ice. This one is well good because it's red. Well, first pack, we will for sure go with equipment, so this will be my pick.
Hi there, so I'm hoping for some good cards in this. This will be my third ever draft and a set I'm not too sure about, so we're going to see about this. Okay, so we'll pop up the commons. Nice majestic there. Oh, our token. So what have we got? So, right, let's stack our pipes. So, I'm going to pop our elementals in with their classes as well, so we can see what we've got. Some nice equipment there, but it is ice, so that would lock us down to Lexi. Obviously, the ice earth defense reaction again would lock us in. Yeah, it's quite a nice defense reaction. It'll be big against some of those big swinging turns. So, what have we got? Got quite a bit of Rimblade here. Nothing really standing out to me too much, must admit. So, it's going to be interesting. No, it's probably not necessarily the best way of doing it, but I might take the Winter's Bite. Quite a nice common, and they're going to have to discard cards unless they pay, which is going to be quite costly for them. So I'm quite leaning towards this. So Electrify again is quite a nice card, getting a bit of draw off of it. Pop it in the arsenal, which is quite nice. I think whoever's going to get what's left of this pack is going to be in for something that's going to be quite tasty. So on our Ranger, got 2 arrows. Breakout was fused, it goes Dominate, so 5 Dominate now, that's going to be coming for some lethal. Buzzbolt fused, whenever an attack hits, deal 1 damage. Quite nice. Trump being our, maybe that is our foil of the pack. It is 4, so I mean you're going for the realm of Bravo for that, obviously because we're enclosed it'd be for Oldhim. So I think normally I would take equipment, but I think the ice equipment might lock me in a little bit. I'm going to play a defensive game and I'm going to take the Pulse, which may be just looking at the Majestic to take, but we shall find that interesting out there. And pop them in. I'm going to give them a bit of a shuffle for the next person, just so they don't know my thought process. Possibly a bit cheeky there, so I'll take that back. Thank you.
So here we have Ben with the reaction towards the drafting we've done the 3 packs now, and we're going to take a little look after that initial, this is what my first pick is. And, well, I suppose, well, let's leave it over to Ben to do some chatting about what he's been picking.
Hello. For my first pick on the video before, I ended up starting with Coat of Frost, mostly to leave me open to a particular archetype. I quite like the ice cards in this set, so I was looking forward to maybe drafting either Alexi or Oldhim. Again, I didn't have my heart set on it, but using this, it was quite a nice boundary to go to. I ended up going into Oldhim and getting almost a complete set of equipment, which is something that I was trying to aim for. Because the way the draft went was actually Briar was very open, but picking Ice as my first cards and first couple of cards kind of put me into being the exact opposite of what Briar wanted. So some people pivoted from Oldhim or from Lexi into Briar towards the later ends of the draft, but regarding that, it mostly was quite open for Runeblade. So my first couple of picks were cards such as Icy Encounter in red, or Frostfangs, mostly sticking to ice to make sure I can hit stuff like Emerging Avalanches in red. And I was basically setting up for a very early something like Thump, because I saw Crackerjacks quite early, in order to get those big kind of explosive turns. And then the setup cards came a little bit later. I've got a rare such as Biting Gale. Let's move these across. Such as Biting Gale, which is quite a good defense action. You can mess with your opponent's turn by making them discard. I ended up picking a few more Icy Encounters in reds, Strength Sequoias, and stuff like Earth cards towards the later end of the draft. Main part of the draft was kind of picking up the Earth cards later because I would already committed to Ice, and I was quite fortunate to be paid off with 2 copies of Glacial Footsteps in red, which is probably the best common for Oldhim. Definitely a strong card to hit. 10 with Dominate, and I can reliably fuse it. It's probably what I'm looking for in a draft card. Apart from that, I've got some Earth cards to buff those attacks, and even more like cards that will punish my opponent for not discarding or having Frostbite tokens. So I think my draft went okay. If I had known that Briar would be as open as it was, I probably would have gone to Briar because I know it's strong, but I think everybody had a little bit of fear of going into Briar early and then being cut by other players. I was quite fortunate that I had a Lexi player and another Lexi player, both either side of me. One pivoted into Briar and one remained in Lexi. So I was quite fortunate to kind of get the cards that I needed. But that's my deck tech, and I'm hopeful for round 1.
And thank you very much, Ben, for taking part with that little insight as to what your deck was. We're now going to be moving on to round 1 of the event of 3 rounds today with the Tales of Aria draft. So hopefully you can catch out some more of the material here on Tabletop 24, where we'll be playing some games of FAB. Thank you for listening.
Well, we hope you enjoyed the events from today and the rounds that we had and the pack 1 pick ones and some of the people's opinions on some of the cards for the set. Now, I thought I'd round out today's content with a run through of the deck I pulled. Now, it did only go 1 and 2 on the day, and the only win is caught on camera, so that was a good one for me. And apologies to Barry for that loss. I think it was just a tough game out. Now, you would have hopefully seen some of those bits in that game, but there's some nice cards in here. So I ended up going with Oldhim mainly because there was, I'll pop that up there, mainly because there was a lot of cards being passed around that I just couldn't afford to lose. I started off drafting some element cards, so I started off in Ice, and then quite quickly it was clear that Guardian was being left in my end of the table. So we've got Oldhim, we've got Titan's Fist. Unfortunately, the only piece of equipment that I was able to pick up was Coat of Frost. Now, hopefully I would have got a bit more, but being the fact that there's not much equipment that blocks and some of their abilities in the set, I kind of sort of held out for some of the cards that would do a bit more damage, hopefully to build those up. Now, I did pass on a buckler, which would have come in handy in several of the games. That's just the way of it. So you will have seen very first off, the pull on the stream was the Pulse of Eisenloft. So that was nice and majestic to start off the day with. And again, at that point, Ice, Earth, you probably are going to go into Oldham. So I think I gave the signal away with that one quite quickly. So now we have a few Earth actions, not many in there, mainly because of the defense reaction, but also it was a lot of what was left. I was hoping I'm going to get mainly an Ice build. So we have got one copy of Autumn's Touch in blue, Earthlorn Surge in blue, 3 So Tomorrows, 2 blues and 1 yellow. So a lot of these were picked up for blue for pitch value as we went through, so that you'll see some of the Guardian cards were yellow and red. So I wanted to really be able to punch home some of those higher cost cards in the deck. Next up, we do have our Ice cards. So we have got an Icy Encounter, quite a nice, I say 2 cost, 5 hit, and obviously Frostbite being one of the things. Now there is 2 copies of yellow Chilled to the Bone, creating 2 Frostbites on hit for ice or an elemental attack, which was quite nice. I did threaten with that in one game, and I played both of them on one turn. Now we've got 2 copies of Winter's Bite, 1 in blue and 1 in red. So it's forcing people to strip cards from their own hand. 2 copies of Polar Blast. So we have got 1 yellow, 1 blue. Again, making people pay for the effects that I'm going to be gaining. Single copy of Winter's Grasp, which was quite nice. It is in red, so it is a 2 cost for 6. And there is no other effects for it, but it was just a nice card to round out the deck, and it did come off a couple of times. Now, rounding out our ice, I did pick up the Amulet of Ice. I only managed to get it off in 1 game, so I did find that Fusion was quite difficult with those high-cost Guardian cards that will be coming up, and some of the high-cost Ice ones in there. But when it did trigger, it was quite useful and kept me alive in a game that, unfortunately, I did lose out on. Now, we've got the Elemental cards. So we'll get those. But not many of these. I wanted to try and focus on getting the Fusion from the Ice, but there are a couple in there. We've got a single Yellow Invigorate, pumping up an attack. A Rejuvenate in blue and in yellow, gaining those that health on there. The only benefit that I really want, I picked up the blue because I wanted that extra resource cost. Now we've got 3 copies of Entwine Ice, 1 in each colour. So again, we're getting that Ice infusion off there. So hopefully being able to use the Ice cards that we've already seen. Now, there are only 2 pure Guardian cards, one of which is a rare. The first one being Thump, which is quite nice if you've got some stuff to give it a buff, to give that Dominate, and it was a 6. So it is going to come in for quite heavy on there. Now, we'll see that when we get through some of the Guardian cards, I picked up quite a few Aureas, and the reason that we don't have a Buckler is because I picked up Embolden. Problem with that being is I only managed to get it off once, so probably in a constructed format might be a little bit better, but in the sealed draft it was a bit tough to pull off. Okay, so that rounds out our Guardian cards. Next up we have our Elemental Guardians. So we've got a single copy of Entangle, which is quite nice for 3 costs for 5. 2 copies of Sequoia, Strength of Sequoia, which creates the auras. Again, leading into the Embolden. 2 defense reactions in turn Timber, which is quite nice to have those big, strong defense reactions there. 3 copies of Emerging Avalanche, 1 in each colour. Again, building those auras up for that Embolden. Now, a card that I think is quite good for this build, and I was quite happy to get hold of, was 4 copies of Snow Under, 2 blue, 1 yellow, 1 red. So they're quite nice. Even the blue for swinging 3 for 5 on an Ice Fusion is quite nice because it gives it that, if it hits, create a Frostbite. So that's quite nice there. And then I rounded that out with actually 4 copies of Glacial Footsteps. Now, there was a couple running around, one of which I did take for to pump up the actual resource cost in the deck, and also give that better chance to be able to circle through and keep hold of one for when I've got that Ice card to fuse with, and paying off the 2 for there. Now finally, and this was quite nice, and this was my pack 2, and it fitted into the deck lovely, and it worked a treat when I was able to use it, but is the alternate art foil Channel Lake Frigid. So that was a fantastic pull for that, and we did have the legendary pulled at the table for the crown, the Earth Crown, but people were more enthralled by the alt art Lake Frigid. So really happy with that pull. Lovely box that we got for the event, and also some really nice games that was had. There was a lot of learning going on today, and you may get that in some of the games that went on with some of the bits and pieces that we've been discussing. So thank you for joining us on this event. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the content that we've put out. Obviously, there'll be more coming from us down here at Manascrew and other events as well. Take care, and we'll see you soon.